and welcome. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for joining me here today to talk about my second book for the month of October. And if you recall, October I am focusing on either spooky reads or autumn cozy reads or something with paranormal activity in it. So basically spooky season books and cozy autumn books. My book this week was Vanishing Daughters by Cynthia Pelayo. And it's got everything I want from a supernatural book. Many categorize this as horror. I see it more as a psychological thriller with some paranormal elements, but feel free to disagree with me. It mostly takes place on the south side of Chicago, but it also travels out to some of the southwest suburbs. And it was appropriate that I read this book after Thorn Hedge by T. Kingfisher, because this one also alludes to the fairy tale Sleeping Beauty. Briar Thorne is a journalist who has recently lost her mother, and her mother believed in the supernatural as a part of our everyday lives. Briar hasn't believed in this in the past. She cared for her mother through her mother's illness, and she is now living in her family's Greystone mansion on the south side of Chicago, which was built by her great-great-grandfather in the late 1800s. Since her mother's death, she has been experiencing things she cannot explain. On top of all this, Chicago is experiencing a serial killer who has claimed the lives of 51 victims. Since her mother's death, Bri has been plagued by nightmares of a woman in white, and it terrifies her. She's trying to avoid sleep because it's while she's sleeping that she has these nightmares. But she has other unexplained experiences as well. From music coming on in locked rooms to the fear of being swallowed by the dark, she has convinced herself that these are all manifestations of her grief. Bri has to do something, and so she does. She uses her journalistic abilities to research the deaths caused by the serial killer and the serial killer himself. And while she is doing that, she meets a stranger who tells her that there is more to her sleepless nights than she realizes. What no one realizes is that Bri herself may be in danger. My experience with this book was that the first 30 pages or so were difficult to get into, but once I hit page 50, I could not put this book down. I love the setting. The city of Chicago and the neighborhood where the book is set is almost like a character in the book. From the iconic Greystone mansions to the haunted reputation of Archer Avenue to locations where paranormal activity is reported to take place, this story is darkly atmospheric. So let me give you a taste of the writing in this book. In Chicago, a city of tragedy and fancy, sorrow and joy, we are raised on ghost stories. Chicagoans often claim to see the ghosts still on patrol from the Battle of Fort Dearborn in 1812. Specters of crying women and children outside in Death Alley burned to death at the fire of the Iroquois Theater, now the Oriental Theater, in 1903. And the apparitions of Al Capone's gangsters standing, playing lookout at the site of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre on Clark Street, and more. I loved that Chicago history and folklore are incorporated into the story, and much of that folklore is related to the paranormal. So I am familiar with some of these urban legends, and I really appreciated the way that they were interwoven in the story. So what can you read for a similar experience? I'm going to suggest a book that I have not read but really want to, and we don't have a copy of it, so I've printed the cover so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And it is Children of Chicago, also by Cynthia Pelayo. This also takes place in Chicago and centers around Lauren, a detective living in Chicago and investigating a murder. And the murder has similarities to a murder that took place years ago, the murder of Lauren's sister. Once again, the city of Chicago itself is almost like a character, and the folktale The Pied Piper of Hamelin is interwoven into this story. And a second book I will suggest, which I also don't have a copy of, is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Noemi, a glamorous debutante, receives a letter from her cousin asking for help. Noemi immediately goes to her cousin, who is living in Mexico in her husband's home. Noemi is not afraid of her cousin's husband or his father, who seems to be interested in Noemi. That family's youngest son seems to want to help, but he is also hiding the secret of his family's past. This story is a horror story, but more importantly, it's an indictment of racism, class disparity, and abuse in all forms. And there we are. Next up, I'm focusing on cozy autumn books. And what could be more cozy in the autumn than coffee shops and pumpkin spice latte? So I will be reading The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I will be here next week to talk about it. I hope that you will join me then, and until then, I hope that you enjoy all that you do and all that you read. And thank you.